Do you have a new baby at home, or maybe a child or children? In this program, 1, 2, 3, Grow, we'll be talking about the amazing changes your child will make over the next few years and what you as a parent can look for. My name is Jacqueline Williams-Hines. I'm the voice of NSB Online Radio, and joining our conversation today is Dr. Christina Sakai, pediatrician from Tufts Medical Center. Dr. Sakai, let's get started. One of the terms that we're going to be talking about is developmental milestones. What does the term developmental milestone mean?
Thank you, Jacqueline. Each child develops at his or her own pace, but there are certain skills that each child meets at certain ages, and these are called developmental milestones. Some children reach their milestones a little earlier, some a little bit later. Every child is unique. But it's important to observe how your child is developing and growing, and this helps us understand when to be concerned and what to do when there are concerns. The milestones we're going to be talking about today is about how your child moves, socializes, communicates, and thinks. We will be talking about some of the milestones for each children at ages 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years of life.
So Dr. Sakai, let's get started. You talked about 4 distinct areas of development that we'll be looking at today: communication, social, thinking, and movement. Can you tell us a little bit more about each of these different aspects of development?
Absolutely. So movement is how children use their bodies. It's often the first area of growth that we recognize and notice. Parents will often tell their grandparents, hey, she's sitting up, or look, he's walking. Social development is how children show their feelings and how they get along with others. The first time your baby smiles at you is such a precious moment to parents. And as children get older, we really watch how they play with other children. Communication is how children let us know what they need and how they understand what we are telling them. Before children can even speak, there are certain things that they can do to communicate. For example, a 1-year-old is oftentimes pointing to indicate what they want. Infants can use facial expressions to show us their emotions. And starting around 1.5 years, 1.5 years of age, they're really being able to understand simple commands. Thinking skills is how children learn through play. This is typically seen by children's play, and they show that, like, for example, if they're shaking a rattle, what they're doing, and they're progressing to ball and imitating play.
Now, you talked about play, but aren't we talking about development? What has play to do with development?
Play is often described as the child's work. When we watch how children play with toys and with other children or adults, we see how children are moving, how they're thinking, how they're socializing, and how they're communicating.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. In a simple game of rolling a ball back and forth with an adult, we see how the child uses their body to sit and grasp the ball. This is an example of movement. And then how the child interacts with the parent and goes back and forth with the ball. This is socializing. How the child communicates your turn. This is and understands the idea of game. This is their thinking skills.
We're going to take a look at some video clips of children at ages 1, 2, and 3 years of age, looking at some common areas of developmental milestones.
Before we take a look at the videos, there's something that I wanted to remind everyone. So we are going to see some videos of some milestones at ages 1, 2, and 3 years of age, but every child develops at different rates and is very unique. We will not be able to see every milestone at every age in these videos.
And that's a good point. And at the end of this program, we're going to be sharing with you more information on developmental milestones. Now let's get started. Let's take a look at this video on movement.
I know. Here you go.
Dr. Sakai, please give us some information about what we're seeing here.
Sure. We're showing the movement milestones for children ages 1, 2, and 3 years of age together to show how development happens. Development happens in a progression. For example, children stand before they walk before they run. By combining these clips together, you can see how the child builds strength by standing, balance and walking, and coordination and running. And each of these milestones is a progression of the child's development.
Now that we have a better understanding of developmental milestones, let's take a look at some milestones at age 1 year. Let's start with communication.
We talked earlier that communication does not always mean speaking, as we communicate through facial expressions, through pointing, and gestures. Shaking the head no clearly means no.
Now let's take a look at social development at age 1 year.
How are you?
Yeah.
You can come?
Go money.
Here you see the baby feeling unsure about strangers and clinging to her mother. This is an example of a 1-year-old in a new situation.
Next, we'll look at thinking at age 1 year.
This child is using a cup properly. She's bringing it up to her mouth to drink. Even though the cup is empty, she understands what a cup is used for.
Next, we're going to look at movement at age 1 year.
Yeah, I know. I know. Here you go.
This is what we expect to see in a 1-year-old. However, we know that some children will walk a little earlier and some a little bit later. Every child develops at his or her own pace.
Now, looking at those same milestones, let's look at communication at age 2 years old.
What is this?
No.
Very good. What is this?
Ears.
In daily routine of eating, taking a bath, or getting dressed, the 2-year-old child is really learning about their body parts and can demonstrate this.
Let's look at social development at age 2.
Put them together. You know what to do. Rub both of them together. Come on, rub them together. Come on.
This is a good example of behavior we often see in 2-year-olds. We describe it as the terrible twos, but it's the way the child is really communicating their feelings and expressing it.
Next, we'll look at thinking at age 2.
This is where we see how thinking skills are becoming more complex. He is given a 2-statement command, and he has to keep those 2 statements in his memory and follow them. It seems very simple, but actually it involves a lot of thinking processes.
Let's look at movement at 2 years old.
We've seen this earlier in the program, and I wanted to point out that at the beginning, children, when they're starting to run, can trip and fall quite a lot.
Finally, we're going to look at typical development of those same milestones at age 3. Let's look at communication at 3 years old.
What is this? A phone.
Very good. What is
This. A block.
what is
This. A crayon.
what is this?
A boot.
The 3-year-old child is naming a variety of objects. I want to point out in this video that this child is very attentive in this activity. He has great eye contact with the teacher and knows that she is showing him things and is very attentive.
Let's look at social skill development at age 3.
It's your turn. Trevor, your turn.
This is such a nice example of social development, as turn-taking requires the child to look beyond him or herself and interact with others. The child knows how to share, waits for the other child to respond, and clearly shows the intent to cooperate and play activity. We talked earlier in the show about play, that observing a child's play really gives us a great picture about the child's development.
Now, let's look at thinking at age 3.
That's hers.
whose?
That's hers. That's hers.
Okay. Whose is this one?
Mine. That's mine.
We often see developmental milestones overlapping in different areas. In this example, the understanding what is mine being different from what is yours or hers shows not only the child's thinking skills, but it also involves social development as they're interacting with others. And it involves language because they have to have the vocabulary to understand mine, yours, and hers and how to use them correctly.
Finally, let's look at movement at age 3 years old.
Let's go.
You can really see the difference in development here compared to a 2-year-old who is beginning to run. The coordination has improved, balance, confidence in running. This is another example of play and development and how play and development are connected.
Thank you, Dr. Sakai. Knowing what to expect in developmental milestones can is so important. It can be so much fun for new parents when they're trying to track their child's development and growth. But equally as important are knowing what developmental delays may look like. Our next video shows 19-month-old fraternal twins, Ben and Nate. Ben is developing typically, while Nate is experiencing developmental delays.
Push. Go. You can push. Go. You can push.
Doctor, could you share with us some of the concerns that you see for Nate in this video?
Absolutely. Well, in this video, we'll first talk about Ben. Ben is playing with his mother. He is smiling, he's looking at her, he's showing signs that he enjoys the interaction with her and wants to continue play. Nate, on the other hand, is almost appearing as though he's playing by himself. He's not really interacting with his mother. He doesn't use any words. As you can see, concerns may be subtle and are often marked by the absence or the lack of milestones. For example, in this video, Nate isn't interacting with his mom, he's not using words, and he almost appears as though he's playing by himself. At 18 months, we're expecting children to exhibit certain developmental milestones, and if these milestones are not present, then you should be concerned. In communication, if an 18-month-old doesn't understand new words or say at least 6 words, in his social development, if he or she doesn't notice or mind when caregivers come or go, and thinking, when he or she doesn't point to show new things or to others, in movement, if he or she cannot walk. However, screening for delay is an important part of a primary care provider's work and should be done for all children at 9, 18, 24, and 30 months well-child visit, regardless of whether there is a concern. If the pediatrician or the doctor does not offer a screening, the parent should ask for a screening to be done.
When faced with concerns about their child's development, it can be so helpful to hear another parent's perspective. Let's listen to one parent's story.
I first became concerned about my daughter when I watched her in a playgroup setting through early intervention. I saw that she wasn't socializing the same as other children were. So I talked to some of her service providers about it, and I talked to her doctors about it, and looked to get more supports around some of her social skills and social emotional development. Some of the issues that have come up in the African American community for me is walking through the door, people think they know who I am. You know, sometimes there's a lot of bias. Access is hard, and sometimes people might feel that access is harder because we're people of color. It's hard for everybody. Middle class, upper class, just trying to get through the system. The system isn't very friendly. And I often have to tell people, you know, I know it's hard, and it's not just because we're brown. Oftentimes in terms of family and friends, sometimes culturally, we go to the church a lot and we want to pray for things to get better. And I do, but I also know that there are things I can do along with prayer that are going to benefit my daughter. I'm thankful that I was able to look within myself to get the strength during some trying times to reach out and ask for help. I followed my gut instincts, and sometimes it's really difficult to do. But professionals listened, I felt heard, and together we worked as a team to get my daughter what she needed, and I'm really glad.
What is Roxanne saying here? Roxanne brings up 3 points that I think are really important to emphasize. One is on the biases that people might perceive in the community, and 2 is on healthcare access and the difficulties associated with it, and the 3rd point is on her faith. The first point about biases, she talks about how there might be perceptions of others within the community on her child and who her child is, as well as herself as a parent, and how that influences how people are able to come to care and seek care for their child.
I think it's also important to note that she also touched on something that's very, very significant to the African American community, and that's the divide that we see sometimes between families and the medical community.
Absolutely. She mentioned healthcare access and the difficulties with healthcare access. And I think it's important to recognize that when we're having, even if the doctors are not necessarily bringing up the concerns, that parents do bring up the concerns to the physicians. And that once you have had a concern and need to access services, to get the help that you need to access the services.
But isn't that a conversation that needs to be had on both sides of the table? If the parent's not concerned because the doctor's not showing any signs of concern, and the doctor's not concerned because the parents aren't bringing it up, how do we bridge that divide?
I think that's an important point. And so using your gut instincts was one of the things that Roxanne mentioned, and also just being able to have a conversation and build a relationship with providers. The final point she did mention is about her faith and how prayer is oftentimes used as a way to pray that their child might be better. But it's really important to recognize here that prayer is important, and we have to pray for strength, but we also have to recognize that when our child has problems, that we need to seek the help that the child needs in order to get through it.
Exactly. Very, very common in the African American community to say things such as, we take it to God. Well, please use God's strength to help you advocate for your child. Let's hear Roxanne's advice to parents who might be concerned.
You know your child best. And sometimes people don't want to see you in pain, and people want the best for you. So when you talk to friends and family who aren't early childhood professionals, they might not always give you the best advice. If you think something might be not progressing the way that it should, or if you have some concerns, you really need to follow your gut instinct and go forward. I often tell some of my friends that call me now, and like, if your daughter or son had a cold, you would get that extra advice. You would go to the doctor. So if you think something developmentally isn't where it should be, push forward. Follow your instinct and seek the proper professionals to get a clearer picture.
I really appreciated in this video how Roxanne is talking about trusting your instincts and seeking help, even if there's others that might say there's nothing wrong or try to reassure you. She really sought the professionals that could help her and support her and her child in the development.
Exactly. It's not uncommon in the African American community to not want to address things that look like intellectual or developmental delays. It's very important that you use your gut instinct and consult professionals when necessary. For more information about developmental milestones, we have free materials to help. The CDC's Act Early Tracking Milestones brochure pictured on the screen lists the key milestones to look for from birth to age 5. You can check off your child's progress, slip it into a bag or pocket to take to your child's doctor, and use it to discuss development at your child's next well visit. The CDC's Act Early Milestone Checklist goes further by providing a bit more in-depth information about development. Both of these great free tools are available in multiple languages and downloadable online at the websites on display. Massachusetts Act Early at www.maactearly.org or the CDC at www.cdc.gov/actearly. To obtain a printed copy of the brochure or to speak with a specialist who can refer you to help if you have a concern, please call Family Ties of Massachusetts at the number shown on the screen, 800-905-8437. Be sure to leave a message with the following information and a representative will call you back in your language: name, phone number, language, and town. Thank you for tuning in. We hope that this program has provided information about your child's healthy development. Dr. Sakai, thank you so much for all the information you provide. Any parting words?
I wanted to say, trust your instincts. I know we said this multiple times in the program. I almost sound like a broken record, but it's very true. The other thing I wanted to say is we all have fears. There's fears about how your child might be perceived, how you might be perceived. There's fears about what might happen in your future. But don't let the fears get the better of you. If there's concerns, bring it up to providers who can help your child and help you along this path of their child's development.
Thank you again, Dr. Sakai.